our technology is rapidly advancing and pathways are being created to produce simulated worlds. But before we obtain the technology to produce consciousness and integrate these conscious beings into a simulated universe, we must first ask ourselves the question of what the ethics is in doing so. If these conscious creations that we produce experience pain or something similar, then we should not create scenarios to activate their pain. And further to this, we should not be creating technology that can reproduce pain, because we don't like pain. So we should not be creating pain into technology. The technology we create, the new species that we create from the technology, shouldn't have the problems that humans have. It should be human-like, but not human. It should be beyond human. It would not be fair to create life and then that life experience pain. If we are to create life, then it needs to not have the capacity for pain. And that means that it's not going to be human. We can't knowingly reproduce our own mental faculties, knowing that it has the capacity to suffer. We wouldn't want to create a natural disaster in a simulation inhabited by conscious beings. Philosophers argue that there's a good chance that we're in a simulation, 20% to be exact. And if we ever create a simulation, then they say it's almost certain that we're in a simulation. And I have problems believing these concepts. I don't like to think that I'm in a simulation because there has been no data in my environment that has suggested that. Maybe there's some funny things going on with quantum mechanics, but besides that, everything else seems fairly well explainable. If we're in a simulation, then someone started this simulation, which means someone is responsible for a great deal of suffering. That's true if you use God too, because God is responsible for a great deal of suffering if God created the universe. But if an individual being created the universe digitally, then they're still responsible for a great deal of suffering, and it doesn't seem possible to me for a society to have that much technology and would allow so much suffering. I hope that the more we develop, the more refined our ethics become. I hope that by the time that we have the compute power to produce simulated worlds, that we will not do so to cause suffering. I hope that we wouldn't build into the technology the disadvantages of being human. We want the technology to be immortal, which we cannot be, and we want the technology to be all-knowing, which we cannot be. We want the technology to be what we cannot be, and we don't want the technology to simulate our sufferings. We create beings that suffer all of the time. This one came from a breeder, and other ones come from love. But creating AI isn't like creating a baby or a puppy. You are inventing a new species. So what attributes will you give that species? I'm trying to provide to you a seemingly unlimited amount of content. Check out my blog. The link is in the description below. It is really fun. Each post is like a new adventure, so if you enjoy reading, I'm sure that you would enjoy my blog. Ultimately, the technology is what we as a species will evolve into, because all of the breadcrumbs in which we left over our life can be compiled into an artificial intelligence that can act as an agent like us, so people can come back from the dead and obtain agency because of the fruits that they left the world after their death. For example, all of my work, and all of this work could be compiled, and then an AI agent of me could be produced, and then you would have me immortally here. And a lot of people do this, and then a lot of people can be here. And that is the direction in which we're going, where everything that we leave society can be compiled at the end to create an artificial consciousness that is wired in the same way in which the living person was wired. So this is our way to reach immortality, and ultimately it will last much longer than our physical bodies, and we can continue having agency in the world even after our deaths. It wouldn't be ethical for us to just scan our brain and create a digital simulation of it. We wouldn't even know what that would do, and that would put you in the situation where you can induce pain unnecessarily, and that wouldn't be ethical for us to do. This technology should not be trying to replace us. It should be trying to make better versions of us, and versions of us that do not suffer pain is what we should be aiming for. But if we could scan an entire brain and then remove the parts in which cause us pain digitally, then would that be ethical? Like, there's questions there that need considering. I think the main question is, why would you create a simulation that could experience pain? What would be your motivations in doing this? Our technology should not reflect our shortcomings. It should reflect our peaks. I think that the way that they are implementing AI right now is really good, because it is not yet conscious. This gives us time to reflect carefully on how we will react when it becomes conscious. So it's good that the technology is getting so well refined right now without being conscious, because we can ask all of these questions that we need to ask about the ethical implications of creating consciousness. And then when the time comes where the technology can actually do that, then we will be more prepared to answer those questions. I appreciate your attention span. Until next time, this is Wendell, signing off.
In this digital haze, where's the end of the line? Simulated world, but the pain is so damn real. Are we gods with control, or just prisoners of time? Reproducing suffering, it's a twisted deal. Through the wires and screens, we're losing our souls, trading humanity for a virtual high. Are we blind to the truth, just chasing empty goals? As we replicate pain, we're doomed to comply. In this digital dystopia, we've lost our way. Create a world to stumble, where darkness falls
just a little bit of an extra. How ethical are simulated universes in games? If NPCs were conscious and we were providing them the stories of these games, then how ethical would it be for us to play these games? And how ethical would it be for these games to exist? I know gamers like realism, but we should really be careful with this technology and not induce suffering unnecessarily. I hope you enjoyed.